Hey everyone, welcome back to Week Ahead Astrology Breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and if you recall, we just had a full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. So I posted on Stillwater's Instagram just to see how everyone is feeling. So I just want to read some of these because I feel like sometimes when you're going through a full moon, a new moon, an eclipse, a retrograde, you feel like maybe you're the only one feeling a certain type of feeling or blessing per se. So here are some responses that people submitted for the energy of this full moon. So relocation for my job. Yes, very much Sagittarius vibes. Unaligned with things that felt aligned a month ago and comfortable, but also a sign that I'm expanding. Boom. New opportunities and blessings. Boom. Using my voice to let others know how I feel and think because I matter too. Boom. Vibes. Taking out the trash. I feel like that's probably energetic, symbolic, taking out the trash, or maybe physically cleaning up is also a vibe with a full moon. Truth is greater than everything else. Yes, very Sagittarius vibes. Freedom, hope, feeling a little on edge, these ascension level up vibes, and then the smiley face with a little sweat emoji. So yes to all. I also was getting some DMs asking if like dizziness or exhaustion are common during the full moons. I feel like most of you watching tune in to these weekly recaps a lot. But yes, all these things are very common. I also know for me personally, I have been sleeping a lot. And I also thought that things might be a little less intense with this full moon because we're just now done with the eclipses. But of course, depending on if you have any placements in Sagittarius or placements in mutable signs, so Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces, then of course things are going to get activated. And this is just a good reminder for any lunation. If you have prominent placements in that sign, in that modality that's going on during a lunation, then of course you're going to feel like my natal Mercury is in Sagittarius. So having that full moon hit my Mercury, there was a lot that I was processing up until that full moon. And then this morning, Sunday, after the full moon, I woke up and I just felt so clear-headed, knew exactly what I needed to do. I got things done very fast, things that were just like were on my mind all week. It was just like boom, boom, boom. So give yourself some grace and some leeway if you feel like you're still processing and still going through it. That's extremely common, especially because at the start of this week, there's a lot happening. And then even at the start of next week, when Mercury enters Gemini, things are also going to be picking up. So give yourself some grace, but then also know where you need to put in the time and the work to set yourself up for success. Cool. Great. So let's hop into the week ahead, shall we? So we are starting on Monday, June 5th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Venus is now in Leo. This is a beautiful, noteworthy topic that we're going to spend a little bit of time on right now because Venus is going to be in Leo for 4 months, given that she's going to be retrograde starting at the end of July. And she'll retrograde for 40 days, 40 nights, as she does for every 18 months, she retrogrades. So what I want you to start paying attention to is one, Venusian themes in your life. So what you value, your self-worth, beauty, pleasure, art. If you value money, you could also be looking at that. The reason why is because with Venus currently in Leo, she's going to be dancing with Mars for the next month. So what that means is there's going to be this tension, this passion, specifically in this Leo ruled part of your chart. So that's the second thing I'd advise, looking to the Leo ruled part of your chart, because this is a fixed fire sign. So there is likely going to be something that you are passionate about or want to put a lot of energy towards over the next 4 months. And potentially during Venus's retrograde, you might reevaluate things, or certain relationships are going to die, whether that be you are releasing certain relationships or that part of the relationship is no longer going to be what it once was, often for the better. I remember last Venus retrograde, which was at the end of December, like Christmas 2021, all throughout January 2022, I started working with a personal trainer. It didn't work out. He was not aligned. And then I found a new personal trainer right after, and I worked out with that personal trainer all throughout the rest of my time in Toronto before I moved to Vancouver. So in that case, for me, it was a relationship, Venus, that was not aligned. and then it moved into something so much more beautiful and it evolved. So this is just something that I want to preface again, because we do not fear retrogrades, and it's something that we're going to be prepping for and talking more about, especially once we get to July, that in this Leo ruled part of your chart, where are you seeing certain relationships grow and evolve? Where are you wanting to emerge and build new relationships? And then also too, Venus and Leo really does give me like Samantha Jones vibes in a little bit, in the sense of like going after what you want, wanting to look good, wanting to feel good, all eyes on you. And it doesn't have to be from a beauty perspective. It could just be what you take pride in doing, whether that is in your family, in your community, at your job, whatever it may be, that you're going to be putting a lot of emphasis into that part of your life. And the good news is, while Venus and Mars are together, Venus never actually catches up to Mars, because she starts slowing down right before they actually go conjunct. So there might be a little bit of this either slow burn type vibe or intense day. If it could go either way with this. But at the start of the week, I really want to emphasize that Venus, given that she just moved into Leo, is now opposing Pluto. So if you recall, when Venus was retrograde back at the end of 2021 to beginning of 2022, Pluto was in Capricorn and Venus was retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. So you may have themes from that part of your life, December of 2021 and January of 2022, that reemerge, because Venus is also in very tight aspect with Pluto. This gets easier and easier as the week goes along, but at the start of the week, this could also be the little kick in the tail that you need in terms of Plutonian themes of death and rebirth, transformation, obsession, truth, control, all these different things. And then this can also be an opportunity where you are looking at not only your Leo ruled house in your natal chart, but also the Aquarius, to see where maybe you are obsessing about certain things, or where you can take back your power, or where the power dynamics are unequal. Because I often think of oppositions with regards to aspects like a seesaw. And it's like, if they're not balanced perfectly, which is very hard to do, one planet is going to be emphasized at the risk of the other one not being able to shine or being able to express itself the way it wants. Or it can just quite simply be this tension, which is going to maybe feel uncomfortable, like a tug of war. But once you understand how to balance it, or once you let one planet do its thing, then you can recalibrate on the other side. So it can manifest in a couple of different ways. Also, Venus is going to be making a square to Jupiter all week long, a direct square. So what that also means is that Venus is kind of like the front and center this week for a lot of different reasons. And so with Venus making that applied square to Jupiter, it can be a more is more type thing. There can be this like insatiable quality that Venus is like, I want more, 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 more. It's like, when is it my turn? I want to be in the spotlight. It can also be cognizant of your spending, or maybe being worried about money or wanting more money in terms of being able to support yourself, because Jupiter and Taurus can maybe be a bit of a hoarding, or being like, I want to make sure I'm fully satisfied and fully taken care of. And with Venus and Leo, it might be looking at other people who have that energy and wanting it for herself. Or it can mean that it's like, great, there's so many resources for me to take advantage of. Let me really go into this, and knowing that I'm greatly supported, especially like we read in some of those comments, like truth and freedom and expansion in different ways. It's like, now that we know these things, because Jupiter can also represent higher knowledge. And that also came up a lot during the Sagittarius full moon workshop that I did. It's free, accessible to everyone. I got a really good feedback about the meditation at the end as well. So I'll put the link to that Sagittarius full moon workshop, even if you just want to do the meditation, which there's a timestamp for that. So that'll be in the link to this video. But this can also be a great sign as well with this Venus-Jupiter square, that there might be a great pleasure in learning and putting yourself in these environments where you're taking on knowledge, where you're working with mentors, where you're acquiring something new. Especially if you feel like the power dynamics are out of whack and you're like, why isn't this working? I keep doing things in a certain type of way. Why am I not growing? Well, perhaps you need to add in Jupiter's influence to be a better usher, or to be more responsible with your time, money, and knowledge to break through. And we talked about this last week as well, but this Mercury-Uranus conjunction, and it's still within a very tight orb for the first half of this week, is that, have things shifted? Do you have a new mindset on certain things? Are you approaching things in a different way, especially in this Taurus ruled part of your chart? Okay. So I know that's a lot to go into. We're not even done Monday yet, but it's just like, when you have transits like this, there's a lot going on and you might feel either overwhelmed or galvanized on Monday. So I want to take time to explain that properly. The last thing I want to take note of on Monday is Moon in Capricorn making a trine to Jupiter. For me, this is also an energy of, you know what you need to do. Moon in Capricorn is very pragmatic. It's like, great, to have some emotional groundedness or to feel safe and secure, we need to evaluate our resources and make the necessary moves. So if you are feeling called to invest into something, whether it's a time investment, a financial investment, and an energetic investment in terms of forming new habits, please enact them on Monday. Monday would also be a really great day too if you're like, oh, I've been really meaning to join a gym or to get my meal prep in order or to invest in this course. That is a great time to do that on Monday. For those of you that have a business, if you want to send offerings or an email newsletter so that people could invest into you, Monday is a really great day to do so, because people are going to be in this Moon and Capricorn vibe of wanting to grow. And then you also have Venus moving into Leo, a brand new transit for everyone. Venus square Jupiter, like we said, I think a lot of people are wanting to acquire new knowledge, new power, new energy to make them feel more powerful, worthy, and beautiful. All right. Work. Monday is a very powerful day. So Tuesday, we now have the moon making that trine-based aspect to Mercury and Uranus. So if you haven't felt any shifts around this full moon, you will likely feel that on Tuesday, something shifting, something becoming easier. Of course, remember that Mercury is not only communication, but it's also commerce and business. So with that in mind, that there might also be other business negotiation, deals, contracts, if you're wanting to approach your boss, especially if you're in a position with this Venus-Pluto opposition, where you feel like the power dynamics at your job, at your workplace, at home are not in alignment, then Tuesday could be a really great day, especially with a grounded moon like Capricorn, to have these conversations, because then people's emotions aren't going to be swayed maybe as easily. That's going to be more logical, or you can present facts and figures to get your point across more clearly. And you might even just go into that conversation more solid. And then we also see that the moon making that sextile to Neptune as well. So this could be, and I mean, this is something to note as well. Mercury is making that applied and sextile aspect to Neptune all week. So do not forgo your spiritual hygiene, your spiritual work, even just writing a couple notes on your notebook or like on a sticky note, or affirmations. Using this to help you get grounded at the start of the day, during the day, at night could really go a long way. Or you might just add a bit more magic into your life this week by using your words as spells, like that type of vibe. So please make sure that you use that to your advantage. All right. Now, Wednesday, we have the moon in Aquarius. And so this is a really tight T-square with Moon, Pluto, Venus, and Jupiter. This is, like you can see, it's all within a 3-degree orb here, especially depending on your time zone on Wednesday. So Wednesday, if there is something that you have not been addressing with regards to power, worth, safety, security, it'll likely come up on Wednesday. And this can go either way, right? When we're dealing with this kind of a T-square, it could be you initiating it or you being on the receiving end of it. And this could also be one of those things like your friend went through something very intense, and so then you're holding space for that. This could also be a good day too if you're feeling good, vibing high. Maybe you want to put your phone on airplane mode, or maybe you want to say like do not disturb as a setting, because there will be a lot of intense frenetic energy on Wednesday. So you want to make sure that you are grounded and that you are able to stay in a frequency that's good for you. The one thing I will say is your words are going to be extremely important Wednesday and Thursday, because the moon and the sun are both in air signs. So with that being said, if you are in a sticky situation, or if you don't know what to do, this goes back to what I said too with Mercury making that sextile to Neptune this week, is using your words for clarity, for guidance, for empowerment, whatever you need. I mean, remember, we're still in Gemini season, which is a Mercury ruled sign. So this can just really go to show you that you can get a lot of what you need if you just speak up, which I also feel like was a common comment on what people were feeling with the Sagittarius full moon energy. And Moon Pluto as well can be an emotional breakthrough or you finding out something as well. And it could also be the truth in a relationship, right? If we're talking about Moon conjunct Pluto opposing Venus with Jupiter smack dab in the middle, it's like, oh, this is the truth or a revelation that we can't go back from, either in a good way or a bad way in terms of now the genie's out of the bottle. How are we going to proceed? So be open to the highest truth, knowledge, and power recalibration on Wednesday. Thursday, this is still, we get this really nice trine between the moon and the sun. There's nothing really aside from that that is noteworthy. I mean, we're still dealing with this Venus Pluto opposition, but this might seem like things are recalibrating because now the moon isn't in such a tight T square with this Pluto, Venus, Jupiter, and Venus is getting further and further away from this Pluto. So if you're feeling at the start of the week that Venus Pluto opposition weighing you down or needing to get some kind of resolution, that's likely to get easier and easier as the week goes along, especially on Thursday of this kind of nice air trine that we have between the sun and the moon. The one thing I guess we can also bring up on Thursday is that the moon is making a square to Mercury and Uranus. So this goes to even further support one of our main thesis statements this week, is that if you're not going to use your words, it could be that you're just trapped in your head all week, which is not the vibe. You want to be able to be clear-headed so that you're able to flow through this week very easily and then get the outcomes that you desire. And this can also be too, even if you're not going to say it to that person. Like I had a situation a couple of weeks ago professionally where I was contemplating either like leaving something, like something unsaid. I'm like, is it really worth engaging in this right now? Or being very firm in my approach. So what I did was I typed it out in my notes section, and then I just sat on it. And then once I typed it out, an hour later, I'm like, no, this needs to be said. It helped a lot too, just like typing it out and like getting it the way I wanted to be presented. And I sent it off. And as soon as I sent it off, it was like, oh yeah, like that felt really good. I knew that I need to send it off. But a lot of times for me personally, like even I would do this back in university, if I was contesting a mark, like a lot of times professors would be like, do this and you get this mark, especially for like references, at least back when I was doing my undergrad and university, like in my master's, like if you cite 5 references, you'll get X amount of marks for that part of the project. So then I'd have like 30 references and then I'd get 4 out of 5 for the reference section. I was like, everything is labeled properly according to APA or whatever style I was using. Why didn't I get 5 out of 5? But I didn't normally, like the whole point of this is I would never confront the professor or whomever when I got my mark back. I would usually take a day to let my emotions simmer because I am an Aries moon. And then once I was clear-headed, then I would send the correspondence. I bring that up because this might be an ample way with the Aquarius moon having her receipts and being very illogical. But then this Mercury Uranus going against a bull, it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to wait a day before I confront or go through this so that I'm clear-headed. I'm not allowing this thought process or this obstacle be a deterrent. And then potentially once you get to Friday, when the moon is in Pisces, I mean, this moon Saturn can manifest a couple different ways. It can be you slowing down physically, your body taking time to relax, cool off, but it can also be you being able to use Saturn's energy to help emotionally regulate you. I don't think we don't talk about it enough, how Saturn and Mars, especially in conjunctions, we can use the energy of that malefic planet to our advantage. So if you're needing to state a boundary, especially an emotional boundary, if we're talking about moon conjunct Saturn and Pisces, this would be a phenomenal day to use it. If you need to say no, very Saturn, do it on Friday. If you just have that conversation, have a boundary, do it here. And then also this moon Saturn energy is making a sextile to Jupiter. So it can be a really good opportunity where it's a win-win, where you don't have to feel bad for having that conversation or for saying no. It just gets to benefit everyone. So I would really use that to your advantage if you need to have some kind of talk. Or like I said, the opposite, if you just want to slow down, maybe take a half day that you don't have to work too hard. It might also have been a very emotionally taxing week, depending how this Venus-Pluto opposition, and then once the moon was in Aquarius, if that really took its toll on you, then you probably just want to chill and be a happy clam, or maybe just like watch a TV show, watch a movie, and just relax on Friday, especially if you were maybe the one holding space and being a caregiver, or you work in a field where you hold space energetically, emotionally. On Friday, you're probably going to be a little bit tapped out. So if you have the ability to take a personal day or to not work on Friday, I would do so. And if you don't have that option and you are working, take it slow, use your words, say no when it suits you. Okay. Now, Saturday, we have the moon in Pisces making a square to the sun. So now we're at this waning phase of the moon as she is losing light, getting ready to move into that balsamic moon phase. So a big energy here is to be authentic, to not allow other people's thoughts, words, emotions, opinions get in your way, especially given that the moon is going to be adjoining with Neptune on Saturday night. If you don't know who you are, what you stand for, is likely that you're going to be swayed on Saturday, and especially if you've done so much work your entire life, this past year since the eclipses. You do not need to be engaging in activities or relationships that are no longer serving you. This could also be like you're tempted by other people's words, given that the moon is making that square to the sun. And so it's like, oh, you should really come out. Come on, let's come out for one drink. Da, 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 da. Maybe not the vibe. You may just want to stay in, especially if you haven't taken time to ground, to help clear the thoughts and the energies of the week. I would use this more so, especially with the moon making that sextile to Neptune, Uranus, to ground and to clear your mind instead of engaging with other people's energies and going out and partying. It's up to you, but I would take this more of a, especially given that the moon is still co-present Saturn, I would take this as a recalibration day to slow down versus party, party, party. Also, I just made plans personally to go see The Little Mermaid on Saturday night because I was like, oh, moon conjunct Neptune. That's a vibe where you get to relax and be in the energy of a very Neptunian, also moon in Pisces. I mean, it could not be more perfect. I love when the astrology works out like that. So if you want to be in that vibe, maybe you go see The Little Mermaid on Saturday night, because that would be a check in my mind. And then Sunday, we have Mercury ingressing into Gemini as the moon enters Aries. So this is what I was mentioning at the top of this video, with Mercury now in its home sign of Gemini, with the sun still in Gemini for the next, 9 days or so. We are going to have a lot of that fast-paced, creative energy at our disposal. So just to get your mind in that headspace for next week, look to the Gemini ruled part of your chart, because this is going to get really good for my Virgo risings, Gemini risings, people that have strong air energy, even people with strong mutable energy. This is your time to go pedal to the metal, make it work. Everything will just happen simultaneously, back to back to back to back to back, or at least has high potential to, especially with Mercury now in sextile to Venus and Mars. There's a lot of really good energy coming in here. Even Sunday as well, the moon making a trine to Venus. So Sunday's a really strong day to go out, have fun, be social, do what you need to do, but go out and play on Sunday. Because like I said, Friday and Saturday are more of like slow down, moon in Pisces, chill. On Sunday, you probably want to go out and take a bite out of life, so to speak. Okay. Boom. So the astrology question of the week was really fun. And I've thought about this a lot. So when someone DM'd me asking me this question, it was pretty obvious. And I'm not just I'll expand upon this. So the astrology question is coming from Pacific Northwest Aquarian. If you had to assign an astrological sign to each of the Sex and the City girls, what would they be? Bonus for assigning Mr. Big, Aiden, and Steve. Love this question. And I mean, if you're not a big fan of Sex and the City, you may want to stop right now, because I might talk about this for a long time. I also wanted to talk about Kim Cattrall coming back to do a cameo for the finale of And Just Like That season 2. And I posted on this on my Instagram, and people were like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a cameo. She's hardly ever going to be there. I know some of you may know this, some of my clients watching or people in general who know and follow my content. I love Sex and the City. I feel like it's very rare, even now, that we see a TV show that has an all-female ensemble cast, number one. Number two, Sex and the City came out in 1998. And even at that point, there weren't a lot of TV shows with an all-female cast. Even now, 20 plus years later, it still isn't really a thing that we're seeing an all-female cast have multiple series have such success like Sex and the City did. And a big reason why Kim left, from my research and what I was hearing, is that she wasn't getting paid as much as Sarah Jessica Parker, because Sarah Jessica Parker was an executive producer. So all throughout those interviews, like for the past 10 years, Kim Cattrall is like, no, 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 I'm not coming back. That's end of my life. So even if it would just have been her negotiating to maybe come back for one episode and just like that, it would have been huge, because even last year, all these interviews came and resurfaced again with Kim Cattrall. Would you ever do it? Would you ever do it? She's like, no, no, no. And so when I looked at the astrology, and I posted about this before as well, but it's just uncanny how Venus is going to be retrograde at the end of August when the finale of season 2 is supposed to be released. And Kim has her sun and Pluto in Leo. And I was looking at different websites, and some have Kim's ascendant in Libra and some don't have it. So I'm not really sure if her birth time is for sure a given or not. But either way, Venus in the sign of Kim Cattrall's sun and Pluto, and Venus retrograde, her going back and renegotiating a very Venusian role, and even like acting is very Venusian in itself. It just goes to show how the astrology is so powerful. And it also, one of my key mindsets and mantras is you can never, ever miss out on something that's meant for you. So the fact that Kim Cattrall was so profusely saying, no, 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 no. She was never like, we'll see. She never said, never say never. She was very firm. That part of my life is done. I'm moving on to other projects. And she came back. I guarantee you she got paid a pity penny. So I'm glad that she did, because she is the one for me, for many of us. And I love the fact that Venus is retrograde when that episode is released, because also talking about time and timelines and how all these timelines are happening at the exact same time, that of course is just so happened to be released in this timeline. So with that being said, the 4 Sex and the City girls. So I'm not just going to do their sun sign. I'm also going to do their rising and moon. And with using whole sign house systems, I'm going to like give my reasoning, because I've thought about this a lot. And I thought about making videos about this, and I'm like, but now the time has come, and it's very timely with Kim Cattrall's news. So just let me have a sip of this. Okay, so we'll save Samantha. We'll save the best for last. So let's start with Carrie. So for me, and I'm not going on like the token, because there was an episode that Carrie had her 35th birthday, like when they're all supposed to show up at El Cantinore, and then everyone got delayed. I believe that episode came out in June, but I like the Sex and the City universe didn't really follow time in the real world. In my opinion, Carrie is a Libra, hands down, with a Gemini rising and then a Leo moon. If we give Carrie a Gemini rising, that means the sun would be in the 5th whole sign house, where we find sex, and the moon being in her 3rd whole sign house of Leo. She has a weekly column. She is a writer. She also is very, like, it's her face front and center, even like the title on the bus, but also her face is on the column. So that's very Leo energy for me, known for her writing, moon in the 3rd. The Gemini rising, it's like her voice narrates the entire series. I would even say not only is Carrie's sun in Libra, her Mercury and Venus are also in Libra, giving her a Libra stellium in the 5th whole sign house, because so much of her life is about romance and relationships and beauty and style. That all goes there for me. And the fact that she loves designers, you could even throw that with the Leo moon, because she's always dressed up. She always even like has her Carrie necklace. That's very Leo energy for me. And this is just a sidebar. I feel like when people have prominent Leo energy, whether it's Leo sun, Leo rising, Leo moon, their name is often a very big part of their life. So that is just something that I would attribute Carrie's Leo moon to. So next, let's go to Miranda. Miranda for me is Virgo, hands down. I also would give her an Aries rising with a Capricorn moon. Aries rising, there's actually, for those of you who are hardcore Sex and the City fans, like I am, I believe it's season 2, right after her and Steve broke up after they got the puppy. There's a scene where Miranda's leaving her apartment. She has a blazer on, and there's literally the Aries symbol. She has like a brooch on her blazer. I'm like, yep, I knew it. So like the Aries rising for me, because she has red hair, like, especially in the earlier seasons, she's working out a lot at the gym. She's running, all these things very Martian to me. She can also get really mad really easily. So for me, the Aries rising works out perfectly. And that would also put her sun in Virgo in the 6th whole sign house. Her work is extremely important to her. She also, at different parts of the series, acts as a lawyer for all of her friends. So Charlotte with the prenup, Carrie with the housing with Aiden, and then Samantha in the second movie when they're in Abu Dhabi. So her work is so infused into what she does. And it's also like how she is of service, even to her own friends. And I give her a Capricorn moon, which means that it would be in the 10th whole sign house, because a lot of times for Miranda, she can't even engage in intimate relationships, romantic relationships, unless she is achieving something through work. That was a big storyline between her and Steve, was how her work was really important to her. Even in the second movie, she's emailing her boss instead of going on the dance floor with Steve. And that's very common for people that have their moon in the 10th whole sign house, is that oftentimes that emotional regulation or getting that support doesn't come unless they feel like they've earned it or until they've achieved something with status, often through their career. So yeah, Miranda, Aries rising, Virgo sun, Capricorn moon. Charlotte. Also, can we just say, if we had to pick one of the four, I know everyone's obsessed with Samantha, present company included, but if we had to pick any of the four to have as like one of our really good friends, for me personally, it would be Charlotte. I think she's a phenomenal friend. And for me, she is a Cancer sun, Capricorn rising, Pisces moon. Capricorn rising, I feel like is very obvious. She is always like very prim, very proper. She loves tradition. She really values status and worth and wealth, which are very Capricorn traits. And if she's a Capricorn rising, that means her sun would be in the 7th whole sign house of Cancer. A huge storyline for Charlotte is getting married ever since the very first season. That's always what she's wanted. And was a very key aspect. You could even potentially even put Mars in Cancer as well, because Charlotte doesn't really get upset that often, and having Mars in the 7th often manifest in getting at least one divorce in one's life. But we'll just stick with the sun for now. And she often, like, she shines, she puts so much energy into not only her marriage, but also like her external relationships. Even in the earlier seasons when she's at the art gallery, a lot of her clients, she goes above and beyond. Even those early seasons, like the one she went to that one artist estate to pose, and then another one she went, was like the muse and dressed up in drag. So she really does shine in those external relationships with her clients, with her husbands. That's a really big part for Charlotte. I almost gave her a Libra moon, but for me, Charlotte speaks so much. Her whole persona is like happily ever after, fairy tales, the one, soulmates, everything happens for a reason. That's very Piscean to me, very Jupiterian, of like believing in something greater. So for me, yeah, especially moon in the 3rd whole sign house, I just feel like Charlotte is extremely healthy physically, probably the healthiest out of all of them in terms of the way she works out and prioritizes that. So I feel like that's a very moon in the 3rd. And also she has a very like soothing voice, at least for me. So yeah, I put that for Charlotte. Now, Samantha. For me, Scorpio rising, hands down. Even like her body is very lean and very sexualized. And I feel like that can often be a very Scorpio rising type energy. And I feel like she is just kind of no holds bars, and she puts a lot of emphasis on her passions and what she wants to create. And she is very powerful. She has a lot of status. That's why for me, I would give Samantha a Leo moon. And like we talked about with Carrie being a Leo moon, I can see that a lot for, or pardon me, I'd give Samantha Leo's sun, because it is like Samantha Jones, Samantha Jones, Samantha Jones. And if we put her sun in the 10th whole sign house, that's how she is seen. And we can even say too, with Samantha's sun being in Leo, her 10th whole sign house, making a square to her ascendant, there have been many episodes where Samantha's, let's say, scorpionic tendencies, her extracurricular activities have affected her work life. But then there's also been times where I've have challenged her to be better, especially once Smith comes along. So Leo sun, and then I would give her an Aries moon, to be honest. Like, she straight up, she can get upset, but then she gets over it. Like, she doesn't really dwell on a lot of things. Like, she can really rev up, but then she just lets it go, and then she just keeps going. So for Samantha, Scorpio rising, Leo sun, Aries moon. I could also even see Sag sun for Samantha. If I gave her a Sag sun, I would definitely give her a Leo moon then. That one was hard for me because Samantha is just so iconic. So you're just like, a lot of fire nonetheless with the Scorpio rising, I think is great for Samantha. And then for the men, I think Aiden is your quintessential Taurus. Big is your quintessential Scorpio. And Steve, for me, he kind of gives Taurus as well, but he's like Pisces. I would give Steve a Taurus rising or a Pisces rising with an Aries moon, because Steve is such a kid. He's also pretty physical, like shooting hoops. If we gave Steve a Pisces rising, we could give his moon in the second whole sign house. He's not that great with money. That's been shown in many episodes. And then I'd give him a Taurus sun if he was a Pisces rising, and I'd swap them if not. Aiden, Taurus, great in terms of like he literally works with wood, earth, materials in general. A lot of times he's seen like just liking good food, staying at home, eating a bucket of chicken, doesn't really like care about social status or like having a whole bunch of external air energy. I would give Aiden Taurus sun, Taurus rising, Cancer moon. He's like such a lovable guy. And then with Mr. Big, I'd give Taurus rising actually to Big, because you could see him all the time. Like he likes expensive things. He loves jacuzzis, nice wine, cigars, all these things. But even when he's at home, he has like terry cloth robes. Like he still likes his comfortable things, whether it's in the professional setting or personal setting. And then if we gave Big a Taurus rising, his sun would be in the 7th house, and those relationships for Big are very prominent as well. Married multiple times. Even his whole energy with Carrie is like, are we going to get married? Are we not? And then for Big, I would give him an Aquarius moon personally. If we gave him an Aquarius moon, it'd be the same thing. He'd have his moon in the 10th house. And I feel like a lot of times Big is focusing more on work than he is on any of his relationships. He comes across as cold because he prioritizes that. So for me, that, and he's like very fixed. Like Big is the same character throughout the entire series. He does not change really at all until the very end. So that's like that fixed energy that comes from Taurus rising, Scorpio sun, Aquarius moon. So what do you think about that, especially for my fellow Sex and the City fans? I know that was a bit of a breakdown, but I love talking about astrology. I love talking about Sex and the City. So put them together and here we are. And I also want to do that in the case of, for those learning houses and how sun, rising, moon could affect a person's persona, especially for using the Sex and the City girls as a template. It can help give more knowledge on that as well. Okay. So enjoy this week. Ensure that you are advocating for yourself with your words, understanding that Venus and Mars, that influence in Leo, is going to be with us for the next 30 days or so. So that's going to be important to look at your Leo ruled part of your natal chart. And then also by the weekend, things are going to be turning around for the better. Rest on Saturday, have fun on Sunday. Okay. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.